yesterday that Joe had been a little bit unlucky not to have featured. Obviously got some minutes there. I mean, there's still a lot of talk around his future, but is it fair to assume that by the end of the transfer window he's someone that you definitely want to be part of his squad?
Yeah, look, as I said yesterday, he's been a bit unlucky, and I thought he did well when he came on for us today. I thought all the subs did really well just to help us control the game, and we've got a game Tuesday night. He'll play Tuesday night, so look, it'll be, for want of a better word, it'll be a fun week. There'll be plenty of going on for sure. But again, I'm just dealing with what's in front of me, and unless I get told otherwise, then I'll work with the group we've got, and focus on Tuesday night now.
What were your thoughts on the cup draft? I mean, it's quite a tough one. What were your thoughts on the cup draft getting forward?
Mate, I don't know. I haven't had great luck with draws in my whole career, to be fair. I kind of expect them to be challenging ones, but that's all right. It's a good challenge for us, And like I said, there's a group of players who are ready to play, and this is a great opportunity for us to get them out there. They've been working hard at training, and it's a cup competition. We know it's we've got to go there and win, and that's what we're going to try and do.
When you came in, you gave all the players a clean slate. I think a lot of fans were hoping, at least, that Tongi and Ndombele might come back into the fold. I know he picked up a knock in that opening training session in Australia, but he hasn't really featured. What does his future hold?
I mean, again, Tangi's in the boat with a few other guys. I said the other day, we've got, 5 or 6 players more than we can name on a list. So, all these things just come down to kind of decisions that people make, whether it's the individual player, whether it's myself, and we've got 4 or 5 who are in that boat. And, like I said, I'm sure this week those kind of things will play themselves out. He's still training, he's working hard at training. But, that midfield area, we're going really well at the moment. You saw the guys who started today. Skippy's been really good. Pierre and Gio have been training well, so it's pretty competitive in that area. So, but like I said, I think I said on Friday, I think this week, a lot of those things I expect to get resolved.
Just regarding Richarlison, he obviously had a couple of close chances in the first half. It didn't work out for him. Is it best to are you inclined to keep him in the team to sort of play himself into this, where he can start scoring goals? Because even if it doesn't bother you, we'll keep asking the questions about it until he starts scoring.
No, look, I pick teams that I think are going to win games. If I think he's going to help us win a game of football, I'll put him in there. I'm not putting him in there trying to sort of, help him in some individual pursuit. And like I said, I think, the players I work with, soon come to understand that my philosophy around everything individual is that it comes back to the team ethos and what we're trying to do as a group, and within that sometimes people in a group struggle. Well, it's up to the rest of us to get them through that patch and the best way we can, and for the individual to just make sure that he's contributing to it. So, I'll put Richie in the team because I think we can win that game with him in the team, not because I'm trying to get him to a certain space. This is not this is not something we're trying to create to sort of help individuals through a process. We want to win games of football. We want to play the game a certain way, and every time I pick a team, that's all that's in my head.
And you've clearly got a really good track record when it comes to the domestic cups. You did really well at Stoic, but obviously important to you. It's felt like in recent seasons at Tottenham that maybe subconsciously or otherwise top 4 has been the priority. It's the League Cup and the FA Cup has sort of lost its value as a result. Will you sort of need to make that aware to the players that the cups are really important to you, and you just hope that they really realise that?
And I love winning. I don't care what it is. I love winning, and the players know that, And we've got a game on Tuesday that I want to win, and that's all we're going to be thinking about. I don't care if it's a cup competition, whatever it is. We've got to play in the car park on a rooftop. We just go out there and try and win because I love winning, and that'll be the message.
Okay, we'll leave it there.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Yeah, look, obviously disappointed with the outcome. Getting knocked out of the cup. We weren't at our obviously fluent best, particularly early on, which is not surprising, considering the kind of the amount of changes I made. The fact that the boys, a lot of the players tonight, that's their first start for the season. So we lacked a little bit of cohesion, fluency. But I really like the way we hung in there. You know, there's many different ways that you kind of grow as a team, and I thought we showed some real character tonight and personality to hang in there. I thought the second half we had our moments to kind of maybe go on and win it, but you know, we ultimately we weren't able to get over the line, and you know, you lose on penalties, so you got to just wear it.
Can you talk us through the team selection and why you made so many changes? Because I guess with European football, there's sort of even more of a case that the cup should have been right up there with the priorities this season.
Yeah, it is my priority, mate. But like I said, there's no European football, so how am I going to find out about our players? What opportunity would I have to do that other than a game? And they're all Tottenham players. They're all part of our club. So we put out, like I said the weekend, we put out a lineup tonight that will hopefully give us energy, and we just weren't able to get over the line. But that doesn't mean that the cup or any game is not a priority for us. But you know, from my perspective, you know, we're very much at the discovery stage, mate. So I need to find out, you know, and we need to give players the opportunity to contribute, because that's why they're here. They're not here just to make up the numbers. So you know, and a lot of them have been working hard at training, and you know, we deserve an opportunity to go out there and play tonight.
How much of an issue is it then now that you won't have the opportunity to give those players minutes outside of the league?
Well, at least they've had some. So if we need them over the next sort of 2-3 weeks, you know, we've got the window. We can do some extra work with them in terms of fitness. But that's the reality of it. That you know, we're going to need to rely on these guys, not just them, but you know, whenever we get some disruptions along the way, which inevitably happen, whether that's injuries or you know, players coming in and out. You know, tonight was an opportunity to get some game time into some guys, as you said, because it's going to be difficult moving forward.
Does that change anything with the sort of size of squad that you want to have, ideally, just given there is only one competition that you're in between now and then?
No, not really. No, I think the size of squad in my mind is the same as it's always been. That you know, we want to have a squad that's resilient enough to you know, grow and be competitive in a tough Premier League season.
And obviously, one positive for Charleston scoring is really good for his confidence. But how was his ankle? So it seemed to affect him before he came off.
Yeah, I think got a bit of a knock. Yeah, look, I mean, you know, I guess because everyone's been talking about it, it's great for him to, you know, to score a goal. I think he's played better for us in the other games. So, I mean, I'm still looking at. I get why other people look at that, and I understand that. But for me, it's about contributing to our football, how we play, and you know, I thought we gave away the ball a little bit too much tonight, and not just him. There was a few players in that boat, and it's an important part of our game. So that's the stuff that I want, you know, Richie to keep working on and improving. I think the goals will come. I think the way we play, you know, our strikers, our attacking players, all our players will get opportunities to score. To me, it's more about the overall game that's much more important at this stage.
And when you look at the sort of squad as a whole that was used to that, kind of ignoring those guys that you know, think may leave the club, do you feel like you'd like more players to come in during these next few days?
Well, you know, I think again my sort of views around that haven't really changed. You know, we need to trim the squad, and you know, we need to get some. To get to a sort of more manageable state, and then you know, see what's available for us to then bring in players to strengthen the squad in a couple of areas I think we may need.
You said you're in discovery, Ange. I mean, did you learn more tonight about who you can and can't rely on going forward?
Yeah, I wouldn't say can't rely on. I mean, that's a bit harsh for me to sort of measure somebody when you're doing that. But I think, like I said, I thought, you know, there was some real. I like the way that we hung in there. That's going to be important for us. There's some character and resilience shown amongst the guys that I think is going to be needed moving forward, just amongst the group. You know, like I said, we've come away in a cup game to a Premier League side and lost on penalties. You know, if we'd lost 4-0 or got blown away, then maybe there'd be a different discussion to be had. But you know, if we'd won on penalties, would my views be different right now? No, it'd be exactly the same. So it's not really, measured by the outcome. It's more measured about, the whole sort of experience of us seeing the guys out there, how much they're, understanding our football. And I thought there were some good moments, and there's some moments we still need to improve on.
This is a genuine question. Did your players have difficulty in picking each other out in your cappuccino away strip tonight? Because I must admit, I struggled to follow them in my peripheral vision. There are a lot of misplaced passes in the first half. I just wonder whether the actual visibility of the shirt was an issue.
Okay. I don't know is the real answer to that genuine question. That's my genuine answer. I'm not really sure. I don't think he would have played a massive part. Look, I think some of it is just, like I said, just, in a team function when there isn't familiarity there. Like I said, guys who haven't played with each other and, over 2-3 games, there's not going to be the fluency there that, we've seen, but that's understandable. But again, that's part of the process of where we're at the moment. We need to, like I said, find out about our players, find out about our, the group and our character and our personality, and I don't know, maybe we need to check out colour matching capabilities. I don't know, cappuccino, so it was okay. Nice.
And you gave Dane Scarlett's first minutes of this season. What did you make of his performance, and is it your intention to keep him at the club beyond the transfer window? Yeah, I thought, he was bright when he came on. He's been really good for us, training. He's working really hard. Look, I'll sit down over the next couple of days with Dane and, sort of chart a way forward for him. I really think, I think he's definitely got a future at our club. I think, I really like, his attributes as a striker. But it's always a balance with young players, will he get enough game time? Because for him, that's the next stage of development, is to play. He played a fair few games last year, but I think he's actually improved as a player since then. And I'll make that decision over the next sort of couple of days and sit down with him. But I certainly see him as a Tottenham player, and a lot of that will depend on sort of what else happens over the next sort of 2-3 days.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
I don't know. I mean, I guess all I can look at again is behaviours and the way he's training and the way he's playing, and I think he's handling it okay. But I don't know that there's that much of a burden there to carry. Ultimately, like I said, this football club needed to change, and change is the only way you can instigate a different outcome. Sometimes that's not a better outcome, by the way. It could be a worse outcome, but there needs to be change. And I think everyone at the club's got the grips that Harry's gone, and he's gone off to a new challenge, and I'm sure he'll do very well over there. And we've got our own challenge now, but I don't think there's any usefulness in comparing yourself to something that's no longer here and is not really relevant anymore. It'd be different if it was on the back of a successful era, yeah? because successful areas you want some sort of continuation. But like I said, at some point there needs to be a breakage there of what people kind of perceive of you as a football club. So that change has happened, and it's not just about Harry, it's about everything we're doing. We're trying to be, like I said, you have to be different if you want a different outcome.
Just sticking to Richie from Harry, the cliche about strikers is it's more of a worry if they're not getting chances than missing chances. You didn't really have many chances against United, a couple against Brentford, but you seem quite happy with the performance overall. Is it not a concern that your centre forwards are not getting so many chances?
2 games in, mate. Come on. Geez, we love the big call, don't we? I just don't. I never live in that kind of moment where I judge things that quickly. And I get why others do. I get it. You know, he should be on 6 goals and top goal scorer in the league. And everyone said, look, he's going to replace Harry and he's going to score more goals. But you know, you don't know at this point in time how many goals he's going to end up at the end of the year. You don't know. So why put a judgment? Like I said, I thought he played really well. He was a really good link-up for us, especially in the second half when we had the ascendancy. You know, if you look at the passages of play, he was an important part of that. You know, just holding the ball up, playing out wide, being a real presence in the box. I thought he was unlucky on a couple of occasions. I mean, it's come off the crossbar, a couple of scrambles that another day falls for him and he scores. So he's in those areas. So like I said, I don't look at it. It's the same as our form so far. I'm not looking at our form saying, God, geez, we're going to be unbelievable this year. It's 2 games, you know, and in those 2 games, there was some real positive stuff, but there's also a lot there that tells me we've got a long way to go. So, you know, I get why others sort of get emotional. It's an emotional game, but that's not the way I kind of look at it from my perspective. It's about, you know, I thought we needed to be strong as a team to get a result last week, and I thought Richie was an important part of that.
Just finally on him, I know it's only 2 games, but last season he described his own season in 4-letter words, and it didn't go very well. He had injuries, which is very honest of him. It wouldn't surprise me, based on that season, if his confidence wasn't at the highest. How have you helped him with that?
I don't know if I've sort of specifically helped him. Again, I think that's, you know, I was talking about it before. I think he's not the only one in that boat. I mean, you talked about, you know, Pape Sarr last year, you know, Basuma last year. You know, there's a lot of guys in that boat. And what I tried to do is, from the first day they walked in here, is to show them that it's a different place, and then give them the opportunity to see whether, you know, that helps them get to a good place in terms of their own confidence, their own self-belief. You know, so it's not just about targeting the individual, it's about the whole environment. And you know, they've walked into pre-season or whenever they've come back to the club and they've seen new coaches, new ideas, new way of training, and what you hope in that context is that all those guys see it, okay, well, here's an opportunity for me now to do what I want to do and have, you know, some self-belief. So it's not that I've had to do anything specific with him, because again, I don't want anybody coming into this year. I didn't want anybody with, you know, carrying the baggage of or the burden of anything that's gone on in the past. There's no point in that. You know, I come in with, you know, the energy that it's something new and something, you know, an exciting opportunity, and that's what I wanted the players to feel like.
Gary?
Can you say names about sort of things that you could have done better? Can you maybe give us an example about the things you actually quite liked last Saturday and maybe the things you didn't like?
Like I said, I think, you know, looking back at the game, my sort of general feelings after the game were that we looked a bit sort of nervy and edgy at the start, and I think that was the case when I look back at the game. I thought our structure was actually not too bad, but we were maybe rushing things a little bit in terms of our build-up play, and in terms of maybe trying too hard to impress because it was our first home game rather than simplifying the game. And I think the most pleasing thing for me is when we brought them in at half-time, and like I said, I felt in the last sort of 10 minutes there was some really good stuff, and that's what we showed them at half-time, just a couple of passages of play in that last 10 minutes that, you know, it showed it was working if we kept the game simple. And again, you know, you like anyone, you know, like any manager, you try and offer advice, but then it's, you know, has that sort of registered. That's the key thing. And I just thought we had a really good energy from the start of the second half. There wasn't any kind of despondency in what they went through in the first half. Because it's fair to say, Man U had a couple of really good chances and we could have been a goal down. Not that that meant we were going to lose the game, because, we went a goal down at Brentford and we fought back. So, but within that context, it was about showing them, if we kept the game simple and stuck to our structures and kept working hard, that there was some opportunities. And I thought they took that sort of information really well. And I thought our first sort of 20 minutes of the second half was probably the best football we've played so far this year. It's only 20 minutes.
Are they trying to impress you, or are they trying to impress the fans?
Just impress in general. I mean, it's a first home game. You want to. Who doesn't want to? If you're going into a new not a new surrounding, but a surrounding where it's important, you want to put your best foot forward. So.
There's one quick one about Richie. Is that obviously, as you say, that a forward is not just about goals; it's about the contribution, about being aggressive. Is there a point now, perhaps, where it gets into his head, and would you intervene? Is there a point where you sort of say
Yeah, if he's gone 20 games without a goal, yeah, for sure, I'll have a discussion with him, mate. But not after 2 games, So, of course, there's always a point, but usually there's reasoning behind it. But I mean, but not 2 games. Look, I think if Richie was playing for another Premier League team and scored between 10 and 15 goals last year, like he did when he was at Everton, I think people were saying, why don't you go sign Richarlison? He's a proven Premier League player, so he's here. But I think I don't have that sort of, I don't look at it through the lens of last year. I just look at it through the lens of now, and we're 2 games into a season where I think he's helped us, in this early stage where our football's not where we need it to be, to get a couple of promising results, and hopefully that continues. But of course, there's always a point, but we're nowhere near that at the moment.
Darren, and then finish with George.
Just about yourself, you've talked a couple of times about your journey, and wherever you've gone, you've earned respect from people who initially doubted you. Do you think, well, I'll ask it in a different way, what do you think of the way Australia and countries are perceived in Europe? Why is it that you always have to justify yourself?
Yeah, I don't think it's just Australian. I think, if you come from sort of a non-traditional, I don't even know if that's the right word, but what people sort of see as kind of football fertile ground. If you're not sort of European or South American, there is I guess a stigma more against your abilities and your experience, rather than I get that people say, well, okay, so you've won a couple of titles in Australia, well, what does that mean? Yeah, but I still had to win them. It was in a competition that was variable to what I was working with. You still need to win. It's the same when I went to Japan. I still needed to win against comparable opposition. At Celtic, we were successful, but you have to be successful up there. So, if I wasn't Australian, if I was of European or maybe South American background, and I've done all these things in nations here in Europe that maybe weren't even first-tier nations, I think people would look at it different. But, at the same time, like I said, it hasn't been like a millstone around my neck or anything. I don't worry about it or, cry. I've really enjoyed my career. I've loved my journey. I think it's made me, certainly given me the experience to make me hopefully a better manager and a better person in many respects, because it hasn't been sort of your conventional kind of football managerial career. I've loved it. I've loved every minute of it, and I think to me it feels like it's something that helps me wherever I am.
It's really strange because obviously down the road when Arsene Wenger went to Arsenal, Graham was saying, most people said the same, Arsenal, and there is the idea that since then, 30 years on, we've all evolved and educated ourselves and we're back here again. It's one of the footballing powerhouses, if you like, in Europe, and that same thing exists. Do you get to a point where you just accept this, or do you?
Yeah, I think so. But I don't think that's a bad thing, because I think it does help. Like I said, 30 years ago it was arson, but then, with what he did as a football manager, it kind of, I think it helped the Premier League grow. I think that's that's how you get growth by, and it's not always about looking further down the road. Sometimes it's right in front of you. There could be English managers here, right in front of them that they're missing because of whatever the current trend is or what they think is a model, and I've always liked people that I've always sort of been attracted to listening or to observing people and organisations that do things a little bit differently, that are prepared to look beyond just, what everyone else is looking at, just lift their heads a little bit or maybe look a bit left or right and see, because it doesn't have to come from Australia. Like I said, they could be in your neighbourhood, right there in front of you, and you're not looking at them because it doesn't fit a mould that somehow people think, you need to be to work at this level. So, and I think that's how you get growth. I think, by having, different people, people with different experiences, different journeys coming into an organisation or into a competition, and then you grow, because all of a sudden then others start thinking the same way. Well, hold on a second, if they've done it, why don't we do something like that? And all of a sudden what seems left field becomes the norm, and it improves the space you're working in. So, hopefully, and I've tried to do that. I mean, to be honest, I faced a similar thing in Japan, because it was a different kind of, where, again, they play the game a certain way. They, and me trying to change that and provoke that a little bit, while being respectful to the fact that, it's a fairly, there's some real strong values in that nation. I love that, but then, you do it, and then people all of a sudden say, that's great, let's have more of it. So, I've tried to do that wherever I've been.
With that in mind, you looked left field, Europe would say, but obviously your knowledge is quite extensive in terms of Asiatic players. Where Atati did really well for you. That Celtic, one or two others as well. As you look to garnish what you've done already at Spurs, are you going to look into that market?
Yeah, again, I think it's not just me. You look at, people are raving about Mitoma. I watched Mitoma's debut in Japan. I was on the opposition bench. He'd come straight from uni, and in his first game destroyed us. I knew nothing about him. I said to my opposition guys, "Who's this guy?" They go, "Oh, he's just come from uni." "Oh, how good can he be?" He's put his school books down, and he blew us away. Him and Hatate that day. We played Kawasaki, and we were champions. Kawasaki had finished second. We played in the first game of the year, and Hatate and Mitoma just blew us away. And this, like I said, this is a guy who's come from university straight into senior football. I did, yeah, but Brighton were too sharp for me, mate. So I ended up getting Rayo. But I said at the time, I said to the guys at Celtic, I go, because Brighton put him, I think in Belgium first year on a loan, yeah. And I said to him, "You watch this guy. When he hits the Premier League, he's gonna rip it apart." I knew, and again, that it's easy for me to sit here and say that, but I was exposed to that. That's what I mean, by having this different journey. And then all of a sudden that changed my thinking. I'm thinking, well, who cares? He's been at uni. Like, is there any other university players that are coming out that we can grab? And then that you take that sort of open-mindedness in your next role. And so when I went to Scotland, I thought, yeah, I'm going to bring 3 or 4 Japanese. They're going to make it here. And people say, well, it's a bit radical. No, it's not actually. And I'm the same here. And it's not just about Japan, but just looking, when you're looking at players, just don't look at what everyone else is looking at, because you'd be surprised, to see a guy who comes out of university and within 3 years is, an unbelievable talent in the most difficult league in the world. It just goes to show you. Yeah.
They're quite underwhelmed because it doesn't cost a lot of money. But we're always seduced in European football by the big price tag. If he doesn't cost 50+ million pounds, they don't stampede behind him. Maybe he's not that good player.
Spot on, and that's where there's obviously there's a reason you pay sort of premiums for some players. You understand that the talent's there, but I don't believe that the best talent is just at that 50 to 100 million pound sort of market. some very, very good footballers, and if you're prepared to look beyond just what everyone else is looking at, you'd be surprised what you find. Yep.
There's been this misconception around this club that looks like going back to managers. So I count you spent £43 million on the centre half, £40 million on the midfield. You've brought back players that have signed Destiny's done fantastic. You've got to be pleased with what you've done so far.
Yeah, look, wherever I've worked, I've tried to make sure that, going in, I've been really clear on, the way I work and the way I'm going to work, and how how I sort of set things up to try and get success for that, for whatever club I'm working for. And I've worked for all different types of ownership models, and they've all been different. My role within that is to get a connection with the people who make the decisions, because I can't do this in isolation. I need everyone on board, and particularly when there's usually, wherever I've gone, that's happened, a major shift in direction. If everyone's not on board, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. So, I'm really pleased with the way people have sort of embraced the direction we're going in terms of the way we're working. I've brought in new staff that I've never worked with before, and that can make people uneasy within the football club. But the people who run this club were happy for me to go in that direction. So they're the kind of things I look for. It's not just about being backed with money. It's the manner in which you work. It's the authority you're given. And like I said, people who know me in my career, if I want something done, I usually get it done in my own way.
George, to finish, please.
I just wondered who the new penalty taker will be.
That's a good question. I saw a few of them trying today. I think Sonny's up there. I think Matters and Richie, who are all sort of in there. Basuma I've seen take about 500 and miss about 495, but he's still out there practicing. So I don't know, but I think it's somewhere in that order. Yeah, look, I am, but that's where I know that we've still got a long way to go, because there isn't that sort of understanding yet. Matters has been with us for a month. Two sort of Premier League games, and especially when you're talking about actually both sides of the game, attacking, defensive. A lot of it is understanding. Two centre halves need a good understanding. We've got Mickey and Romero have played 2 games together. The midfield setups need a bit of understanding. The front third, reading of how people play and their own idiosyncrasies within that. When to make a run, when are they going to put? Those things take time, and obviously you work on it in training, and you do. We at times our training's been really good, and the coaching staff putting on some brilliant sessions where you see it come to life, but it's not natural at the moment. It can't be. It's going to take. I don't know how long, but it'll take a while before it becomes natural. But I've certainly seen it, and if you're the creative player, say like Matters, you want to try and read Sonny's runs, which are different to say Kulusevski's runs, which are different to Richie's runs. And if you're those players, you're looking for the cue when Matters is going to turn, or a Basuma's or a Pape Sarr's going to make a run that means you're involved. All those kind of things, those relationships take time. But I haven't. I've been pleased in I think our attacking play is the area where we've got much more improvement to do, but I have seen some really good signs early on.
Just finally, in terms of that attacking area, obviously a lot of focus on Richie. What have you made of Sonny and Kulusevski's sort of first 2 appearances, obviously early days?
Yeah, no, I think they're growing into it again. They've been asked to play differently from the past, and again, it's not one where you even though they're experienced, really accomplished players. In Sonny's case, sometimes they're the hardest ones to work with if they're not sort of open-minded, because they'll turn around and say, well, mate, I've made a career out of playing this way and, you know, a very good career. Why should I change, you know? So that can be a real difficult task for me coming in, but he's been really good at just, you know, understanding the role and the way it's different from last year. And I thought last week both of them had some really good moments. And I think as a team, that's where we're at. Well, we're going to have good moments. So, I mean, I'd love for us to have a sort of really compelling performance this early in the season, but I just think at the moment, if we can grasp on those moments individually and collectively, and then grow from there, then I think we'll be, you know, we'll be in good shape. I'll give you my story of the week. I met Ozzy Ardiles yesterday, absolute legend of the football club. And growing up in Australia, you know, that time of him and Ricky Villa, I mean, you know, we were sort of, like we held them up as kind of idols. We weren't Tottenham supporters, but just players who you just go, wow. And when I got the job, one of my best mates said, you know, you got to get a photo with Ozzy Ardiles, you know. So I was wrapped yesterday, but he was also my my go-to trivia question, because when we were growing up, we had a famous Australian footballer, Craig Johnson, who played for Liverpool and won the FA Cup. And he was icon again, the FA Cup and Aussie, but before that, my trivia question was always, who was the first Aussie to win an FA Cup? And they always used to say Craig Johnson, it was Ozzy Ardiles. And just to further my unique football journey, the person who told me that joke was Sir Bobby Charlton. He came out to Australia for a soccer clinic, and that was the joke he told me, and it stayed with me ever since. So there you go. All right. Thanks, guys.
Outgoings. Last season, Spurs struggled to offload players and then had to loan them in the end. Do you think fans are going to be patient on this, and it might even be a situation where you're not able to bring in transfer fees for quite a few of these players?
Look, yeah, may well be the case. I mean, you just don't know. It's a funny sort of transfer season at the moment. There's a lot happening at the top end, and you know, sort of very little below that when you look at it, you know, from a sort of external point of view. But again, I'm reticent to send any messages around that stuff, because it's not something I'm really close to right now in terms of my involvement with, you know, where we're at in terms of those outgoings. So, you know, obviously I'm aware of, you know, the kind of what's happening in all those spaces, because, as I said, at the moment our squad's too big and we need to trim it. But, you know, in terms of what that's going to look like from any kind of aspect, I'm not really sure how it's all going to end up.
And you've spoken before about when you met Sir Alex Ferguson at that game when you were 34. Looking back over what you said about it before, you said it was very significant for you. What have you taken from his management over the years into your own game?
I'm not taking him to my own game, but you obviously, you know, these people like Sir Alex are people who, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, they have an effect on you. Like, you know, and it's not just football managers, but like I said before, I'm a pretty curious kind of guy, so you learn things from all sorts of people and all sorts of events, and I've always tried to constantly, you know, nourish that part of my brain that is constantly curious about things. So it was just significant for me because, like I said, we were coming from, you know, nowhere, playing in one of the world's most iconic stadiums, the Maracanã, against one of the, you know, greatest teams at that time that you know, football had seen, and against one of the greatest managers. So, you know, it was, as I've said a million times, you know, I had sort of 5 or 6 minutes with him, and apart from saying hello, I just listened. And that's the best way to kind of have interactions with people like that, because no point in me talking for 5 minutes and he's not going to learn anything off me.
Just back to what you were saying about learning things from all over the place. You already proved that earlier in this press conference with that podcast we're doing through. What's the most, seemingly from the outside, obscure source that you've gained inspiration from?
I don't know. I mean, it's just people, mate. You know, you're you know, sometimes I'll meet, you know, you just have an interaction with the person, you walk away, and for them it's insignificant, but for you, you go, you know, you walk away thinking that was, never thought about it like that. You know, I've been fortunate that the game's taken me all around the world, and you know, I've met people from, you know, different cultures, different upbringing, different values, different ways of seeing the world, and you know, like I said, you kind of listen to them and you go, I've never thought about it like that, and you walk away and you have a different perspective straight away. Whether that you put that into some sort of, you know, action in terms of the way you live your life, I don't know, but it's there. It's a seed, you know, that is planted. You know, we all have limited sort of brain space. You know, mine's getting more limited because I remember the podcast, but not the person I interviewed. So that tells you where I'm at in my life. But you know, those kind of things. You know, I love that about life. I love that about football. You know, football's given me that. You know, I've felt like I've never stopped learning because, like I said, I'm really curious, and the football's told me that. You know, to never kind of have a narrow mind about things. Yeah.
I think it was Sia, actually.
No, it wasn't, mate.
It wasn't.
It was an Aussie. I'll get it, mate. It's a bloke. Did a duet with Kylie Minogue. Come on, Richie. No, come on. You guys have got to open your mind, mate. You got a very narrow focus. Huh? Nick Cave. Thank you, Lynchy. Thank you. Jesus. Talk about open minds. The most closed-minded group of individuals. Jason Donovan and Peter Andre.
Nick Cave is deeper than Peter Andre.
Well,
Yeah, just on that, Andrew, I wondered if that philosophy that you heard from Nick Cave, is that the first time you've ever thought of football like that, or is it?
yeah, I just that expression, just hit me because you know, because there's a lot of times we talk about, you know, people always say to me, you know, can you keep the play, you know, do you keep the players happy, or can you keep the supporters happy? And I just don't think that describes. You don't sort of skip into a football ground and, you know, have a smile on your face. That's what we love about it, especially our game, because scoring goals, which is the ultimate sort of release, is such a hard thing to do that preceding that is suffering, because every time the opposition have the ball, they get to your goal and you're kind of looking at it through clenched teeth. And, you know, so I just thought it was a really good expression. And I can't remember what Nick was talking about it in reference to, but I just thought from a football context, I just thought it was really, and like I said, look, I mean, I don't want to make a big deal out of it, but like that's me at 57 listening to something and I hadn't even thought about it. And I thought, you know, and that's the beauty of it. And, yeah, I just thought it was a really apt description.
Matt?
Yeah, just back on the stadium, if I may. At White Hart Lane, the old one, last season was unbeaten, and it was a fortress, proper fortress. Is it too daunting a stadium almost to build as a home and a fortress, because away teams come there and they're also inspired to play their best football? Does it make it harder to make it that sort of fortress?
No, I don't think so. I think, you know, those kind of things are built on the back of, you know, context in terms of the experience you give opposition teams. You know, if they come to our ground and they look forward to playing us, I think that's how you create that sort of mentality. You know, it's not about, you know, yes, it's a beautiful stadium and absolutely, but, you know, as much as opposition teams may enjoy playing in the venue, what we've got to ensure is they don't enjoy the experience of it. You know, and that's up to us. It's how you know, what sort of mentality, because, you know, irrespective of the venue, it's, you know, what makes things, you know, what makes grounds difficult to play at is the experience you have on them. I mean, you know, whether that's the environment the fans create, or the football you play, or the challenges you put to them. And that's how we have to. You know, if we want to make our home ground, everyone uses the word fortress, I don't really know what that means, but if we want to make it a place where we see it as an advantage, then we've got to make sure that the experience of opposition clubs is not a pleasant one in a football sense.
In terms of intimidation, have you been right to the top of it, or is that not your
No chance, mate. I said I'm curious, but not stupid. But, no chance.
Well, slightly left field then.
daring thing you've done in your life?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I'm not that sort of adventurous. I think a lot of the decisions I've made in my career, you know, that's probably the most daring things. I've taken on some pretty big challenges, and where, you know, while others may see it as, you know, an obvious thing, it meant, you know, leaving some security and some surety behind, you know, because I've usually left on the back of success where, you know, I could have continued on, but yeah, I left our national team before a World Cup, mate. You know, it's pretty daring. I mean, I'm giving up a World Cup with no security or no real. So, you know, I've tried to be like that in my professional life. I'm a lot more conservative in my personal life, mate.
You feel around.
Yeah, very much so. Harry?
Do you just ask you said about the sort of style and sort of the direction you want to go in? What markers are you using to actually work out whether you think the style isn't going in the direction you want it to go? What parameters or markers do you?
Yeah, look, I mean, you know, we kind of work on those things daily. You know, it's some of it is metrics. So, you know, we have some internal markers that we look for in the game style in terms of, you know, what we do when we have the ball, what we do when we don't have the ball. There's some physical markers that we look for. There's some daily markers in our training that we look for, improvements in areas. Then it drills down to the individuals and seeing the individuals, are they embracing? Every session that the coaches put together has meaning, has some kind of outcome, then we measure that in a game. So you've got the scoreboard, that tells you a fair bit, yeah. So, but everyone can see that, yeah. That's right. So we need to measure our progress, but it's not one or two things. It's a whole range of things. That's why it's hard to. You know, people say, "Well, where are you at?" Well, in some areas we're in a good space. In other areas we've got miles to go, and that miles to go may always be there because there's always another challenge. But you know, did we see elements of our game last week? Were we trying to impose ourselves on the game? Yes. Did we play the game in the areas that we want to? For the most part, yes. Did we create the opportunities that we wanted to? No. So, you know, they're the kind of things, but it's a fairly broad thing. It's not just, you know, we want 10 shots on goal and that's why we know where we're going.
What's one about the players? Obviously, you said Harry, you were quite keen as a result before the start of the season. But the ones who are left here, if you go back a year, Antonio was quite firm, sort of, you know, been 4 players and you wanted these players. Were you quite sort of regimented with Daniel, where you would say, right, these players must go, you must just get them out the door, I need this squad and I need these ones in, and just do it? Or are you much more flexible with that?
Well, you have to be flexible, mate. It doesn't work that, you know, you can't, there's no...
It wasn't, so, you know.
Well, yeah, I know, but I think even within that context, you know, I mean, I'm not going to speak for Antonio, but, you know, I just don't think that anything in football these days is that black and white. There's just so many moving parts to it, you know, and the reality is you may not get a player out and he may be part of your squad and you need him because you're not going to go with a man down, you know, you need that person. So you may be wanting to bring someone in, but it's just not going to happen. You know, you can't just then turn around and say, well, we can't achieve what we want to. So, but, you know, we're in constant dialogue, you know, with Daniel and you know, everyone else in the football department. And, you know, like I said, there's a lot of moving parts in that. And hopefully when we get to the end of the window, we want to be in a space where we've got the majority of what we needed to do done.
Okay, thanks guys. Thank you.
It's fair to say this window's been unusual in terms of personnel. I was wondering if you could elaborate on that. Has the absence of the director of football made things more complicated? Is that what you meant?
Well, yeah, we don't have so yeah, it's not usual, it's unusual. If you look at how the way the clubs worked previously, that's always been in place. And most clubs, so means it's different, which I'd assume won't be the case moving forward.
Do you think it's kind of slowing things down potentially in terms of getting?
No, I just say it's unusual. It's different, you know, because when you're doing something and there's already a process in place, then you know how it's going to work. Whereas this is a new manager and no sporting director, so it is. It's, I think for anyone would say it's unusual. You wouldn't call this, usually you'll have one or the other, you know, maybe a new coach or maybe a new sporting director, but there's processes there. Here you've got both. So you're going into a window where, you know, a lot of things that are usually embedded in this kind of period aren't there.
Are you expecting that situation to be resolved sort of fairly soon?
Yeah, I think there's no doubt it will, yeah. I mean, I think that's definitely the club's plan. But I think it's fair to say that going into this window, there was no point rushing that kind of appointment, particularly with a new manager in it. And I think the kind of thinking behind it was that, you know, probably the best way to charter this unusual process is to just have, you know, less sort of involvements with new people as possible. And, you know, so far, like I said, the evidence, when you see the players who have bought in, I think we've navigated it pretty well.
Matt?
Are you able to tell us what's happening if you go to race?
No, not really. I mean, again, I haven't been involved at all in that process because it's really a decision for Hugo, the club, and, you know, whatever decision he makes for himself. So it's not like it's something that's kind of in my sphere of responsibility at the moment.
But if he's still with you, is he one of those who's going to be left out of the squad? He seems a little bit different to the others, for example, who you'd probably say will fight for their places. Or...
Yeah, I think I've already said I'm not going to have sort of three sort of first-team goalkeepers on my list. I think I said that 2 weeks ago, and particularly, you know, when we're talking about the homegrown quota, it doesn't make sense for us to have 2 foreign goalkeepers on the list. So, and that Hugo knows that, and I think I said that at least 2 weeks ago.
And are you able to say, is this his decision? Is it his drive for a change?
Again, I mean, Hugo can speak for himself. You can ask Hugo, but I think that was fairly evident from what I understand. But I haven't anything different being told to me.
Jack?
And you said as well, speaking to Alistair, I think about how there's been a lot of change in terms of the squad this season. It's been busy, a lot of ins, a lot of outs, and it wasn't going to be like that in windows going forward. Has it been more than you anticipated, or do you think this was exactly what you needed to do?
I come in sort of, you know, in terms of my expectations of not sort of locking myself into any sort of certain course of action where I think you have to have change, because sometimes I've gone into clubs and thought, you know, not much needs to change, but ultimately, again, I think I said last week that change means change. You know, we needed to change personnel, we needed to change, the club decided to change direction in terms of, you know, the football we wanted to play. I decided that we needed new coaching staff, so there has to be change. The reality of it is this team finished 8th last year, so I think that's kind of gives you an indication of where the club was at and what it thought it needed, and I've taken that on board, and I haven't been blocked in any sort of way in making the changes that I wanted to, and that's what we'll continue to do. It has been a lot of change, and you know, whether it's probably not ideal in the short term, but the fact that we've handled that well and the playing group handled that well is a good sign, I think.
There's obviously been lots of moving parts. Do you enjoy this part of the job this time of the year, or would you rather just be focusing on coaching?
No, like I said, I love this part of the process because you know, this is, you know how challenging it is. It's really difficult. You know, there's going to be, like I said, many bumps on the road where everything that you do gets questioned and decisions get questioned and all these kind of things, and I love that. You know, I love that process. I mean, when things are going well, you obviously enjoy the success, but usually when you get to that point, you reflect back on the beginnings and you realise that none of it would have been possible if you didn't sort of stay strong and true to what you want to do right at the beginnings of things. And like I said, this has been, I don't know, it's probably the 5th or 6th rebuild in a row I've done. Every job I've gone into, and I've loved every minute of it. I enjoy it.
Dave.
And can you just tell us what you were talking to Dan about, just the structures in terms of recruitment? Before your time at Paratici, obviously left the position. Can you just sort of explain a little bit, just for our readers as much as anyone else, who's kind of taken on those responsibilities and how it's all worked? Just a bit of detail there.
Mainly just, I mean, obviously I'm taking a fairly big lead in terms of I'm the one that's providing the information in terms of what we need, and then it, you know, goes to our scouting department, and you know, there's a whole group of people there who kind of put the information together and give me the kind of lists that I need to do. Some of it is just players who come on the market, and then again they're given to me to have a look at. Do I think they'll fit the profile? And then I'll give them the feedback, and then that gets passed on to the people who do the sort of negotiation side of it.
I was just going to say, just totally away from everything else, do you have a comeback date for Bentancur?
Yeah, not a defined one, but he's getting closer. I think, if I had to make a call, probably around November time, we'll be looking to sort of reintegrate him back into it. So he's ticking all the boxes so far. He's really keen. I mean, he came to see me yesterday wanting to train, and within a minute I had one of the medical team running behind him to collar him and drag him out. So he's definitely keen, and it'll be great to get him back, because I mean, obviously, you know, his contribution when he first came to the club was outstanding. So in many respects he'll be like another new signing for us, which is great, but we won't rush it. It's obviously a significant injury, so probably looking around that timescale.
Okay. Paul, we'll finish with you, please.
Doesn't not having a sporting director here give you a bit more freedom in a strange way? It's one less voice to potentially disagree with or overrule you. Are you free to act at the moment? Do you think otherwise?
No, I've never felt encumbered with whoever I've worked. I usually get my way, so it doesn't really worry me. But, you know, I don't have total control, because obviously I have control of one side of it. You know, this is the player I think fits a profile, but, you know, there's a whole range of other things that then come into it from a financial perspective, from all these other kind of things that I have zero control. So then obviously other people then take over then. So it's not like I've just can go and do what I want. But look, it's one of the things I'm really strong on. I just wouldn't see the sense in bringing a player in that I didn't think fit. I don't care who was giving him to me or who was sort of putting him forward. Because I think ultimately, whatever happens, I'm going to take the responsibility. I would never say that, you know what, I didn't sign this player, he's not one of mine. I would never do that, because I think once a player comes in the club, he's mine. That's how I see it. So if I'm going to take that responsibility, then I want to say, you know, and I like working with a sporting director, because they do most of that sort of legwork that I just don't have the time for. And, you know, when you've got a good sporting director and you work together, you know, they see the game through your eyes, and they say, well, okay, Ange, this guy's going to be perfect for you, and you look at it and you go, brilliant. I don't even have to worry about it, I know. But I'm still going to have the say, because, like I said, when the question inevitably comes around a signing, I will never say that it wasn't mine. So if I'm going to take that stance, I want the final say in it.
Presumably, before you came, you told Spurs that you're used to getting your way.
No, I don't feel I need to. I think, well, I hope it is. I don't say it in an arrogant way. I'd like to think that gives people comfort that, like I said, I'm going to take responsibility for it. You know, I think that's my role. So it's not like I go around just telling people what to do. I want people to know, to be at ease, that whatever decisions we make, as a collective, I'll take responsibility for.
So you're obviously going to have a big say in who that sporting director will be then, right?
Well, not necessarily. What I will have a say about is that, you know, whoever that may be, is that they get to know me and understand me. I'm not going to appoint the person. I'm certainly not going to get involved in that process. But you know, again, the club, I think, have already sort of got a clear idea of the way I work and the way I think and the way I want my teams to play, and whoever that person is, it'll be, you know, him. It's my role then to get him to understand me and see the game through my eyes.
Okay.
Do you have any clarity on when Scott Martin will start work?
Oh mate, come on. I've got enough on my plate, mate. That's not on my brief, mate. Sorry.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Apologise.
That's all right, mate. It's all
Trying to be